Good morning, everyone. Welcome to God's Grace on Thee and Angel Wallace Productions. Today is Sunday. It is the 8th of September of 2024. It is 9:58 a.m. and it is, I don't know the temperature. It's not showing me, but it's beautiful and sunny out. So I'd like to continue with chapter 6 on the cry of the phoenix. And I hope everyone had a great weekend. Yesterday I made steaks, with seasoned butter, and then I seared them, and then I put them in the oven, and I pulled the pan out when they were done, and then I turned around to do something, and I went back to the pan and totally forgot that I took it out of the oven, and I grabbed it with my hand, and oh my gosh, I was burning for 3 hours, so I had to have my hand on ice packs. I didn't know what else to do. That relieved the pain. I mean, it was. I can handle a lot of pain. This one was okay. I mean, as long as I kept my hand on that ice pack, I was fine. But it took about 3 hours, and then it was okay. Now they're just tender. They're tender from grabbing that. Okay, let's move on. Never a dull moment in Angel's life, right? Okay, let's continue on with chapter 6, recording 1, Sananda Hatton. Sunday, December 17th, 1989 at 6:30 a.m., year 3, day 123. And it says, news notes for attention. Hatton present. Please note the volcano redoubt 115 miles southwest of Anchorage, Alaska, which erupted on Thursday last. Also note the 7.3 earthquake of your Philippine Islands on Friday last. They are in the same circle rim. Now this is most important indeed. Note that today there are 10 top Russian scientists touring your California SDI laser system lab, deliberately left unnamed by your media. Tomorrow, Monday, they move to inspect New Mexico facilities. Now pay attention to the middle of the night high-level group sent by Mr. Bush to China. This is the one most important instances in your century. And note that Israel expects 500,000 Russian Jews to flood into Israel, for they cannot all immigrate to the United States. It is planned by the high powers to reap chaos in that little nation, and further, it is expected that the American people, especially the Jews, will send money for upgrading and building housing and industry. Most important, artifacts have now been refurbished or created according to the Old Testament laws, and the stone for the new temple cornerstone has been dedicated and blessed. And I trust you will further note that the most important and sacred items are the blood containers. They have no footing, so that a priest shall have to step right along on his bare feet, summer or winter, to ensure blessings. Before the blood clots, brothers, you are in serious, serious troubles. Note, in follow-up to my urgent message regarding cashing out of pension plans, if you cannot cash out, see if your company allows borrowing against the plan and do so, and get as much cash value out as you can. If it is a large amount, get T-bills. If a small amount, get U.S. savings bond. Yes, the same kind Daddy bought during World War II. Or get a few precious coins, not commemorative. You want gold, not memories of how it might have been. When gold hits its high, you can sell and hold until it drops in value and repurchase. So be it. If you make sales now which cause great outlay of tax money, get incorporated in a second corporation which loses money next year and reclaim your tax payments later. Just use caution. And Nevada? I shall not explain all this here, lest we all misunderstand and get into jail instead of out of trouble. I am Sananda to speak of remembering when the motherland of Mu sank beneath the waves of the mighty ocean which overflowed her. This before the passing of the place you once call Atlantis. And we shall speak first of that which was known as Pan. Now, Pan has meaning which is, it is finished. Therefore, was finished from its beginning. In the eons which passed, she was given unto much glory. She was indeed birthed into greatness. She was next given to be recognized by the label of Mur, and finally as that which you must remember as Mu. And this place was to be known as a motherland. But man is blind and filled with self-indulgence and greed. 'Twas not until after the passing of the motherland was she known as mother. So shall it come to pass in these days that man shall be foolish until the ending. Mother means from the beginning, and therein is the word masma, or mu, or mama, which is the beginning, the feminine cause of beingness. And because so many of you came forth from that motherland and have later served in other times of passing motherlands, we shall speak first of this mu. Now there were many ones who had escaped from the devastation, and they moved on to the portions of landmass which was given unto them as safe. Now those who listened brought forth with them the sacred histories and oral teachings, so that there would again be a time of remembering. Now many of these ones came into land which is now the mountain area of that which you call the South American continent. Now they gave a pledge unto the mother, for they had been true unto their source. They built safekeeping places for the records and vowed to the mother-father that they would teach the precepts. Now ones had been caught in the laws which you are to come to understand if your eyes and ears be opened. These ones were given power over the elements and over the gravitation of the earth. But they were not given freedom of separation from all attractions of the heavens. And soon they gave no credit unto them which were their supporters, and they gave credit only unto themselves for what they considered their wondrous achievements. And then it came to be in some 30,000 or so of your counting years that it was given unto them to forget, and thus was also lost these memories and placements of the wondrous truths of your lineage. And it was given unto them to be men of rather medium to smallness of stature, and to be much as the Asiatics in the coloring of the skin. They began to lose their way, and they prayed to idols. They gave but little heed unto the warnings which were given unto them from the higher realms of light, and they sank into lethargy and laziness. Then, as in the fortune of him who forgets his covenant with father-mother on a great feast day, it became dark, and the sun gave no light. And on that day it gathered a part of the firmaments into the whole of the area, and it shook the earth from without, that their handiwork was tossed and broken. It split asunder the idols, and it turned and twisted their great and beauteous walls and portals into ruins and rubbles. Now this was but the beginning, for in that place a valley would be raised as the mountains around it. For it shall shift within the interior, and it shall crack, and it shall blaze forth as a great volcano. Now that place which is the valley shall reach into the heavens, and shall be prepared for a new portion. So shall it be, with other placements to the north, and unto the west, wherein the places which are yet in the appearance of deserts and valleys shall be filled with the waters, and yet the places of the motherlands which remain unscathed unto this day in your age shall be thrust upward, and most places shall be given unto being island placements. In these places the waters shall come forth from within sweetness, and shall purify the place, and that shall be hot and pure. But these waters shall be healing in their touch, and many there will be who will need of the healing, for the tribulation shall have been great indeed. And ones of the ancients shall walk again among the men who are remained, and come again into the teachings of the Father-Mother, and pull the peoples back into the path of truth. It is come now that the days within this place are few, and it is time that man know of the truth of his roots, that he can prune of his branches, which have grown in wildness, without discipline, away from the teachings of the Father, Mother, Creator, creation. A place prepared. Now just as now there was then a placement prepared for those who would hear and act. Within the time of disaster, when the motherland sank, many were prepared to go into other places of safety. Now these places were prepared for them. They left the motherland, and they traveled via the seaway passage in the location which became landmass, Panama. It was then a waterway from north to south, and some hundreds by 2 miles across the waters. Yet there was not need for commercial purpose, for they needed not those methods of travel and commerce. And it was given unto these ones who had heard and prepared themselves to leave before disaster, which came in 3 different portions. First, the northern portion, which was in the area of the Philippines. As you know, these islands shook and sank in one night, leaving terror and chaos in its wake. Man again sank into his lethargy and forgetfulness, and it came upon them in a twinkling of an eye, for they had no time to flee. They sank with the second shock, which lasted but 1 day. But still, man claimed his own self-gratification, and those who remained failed to return unto the truth of the ancient teachings. And then the third part was given into much sorrow and suffering, and they went about as ones blinded in a daze. Still ones were deep in their dreams and laziness, and had forgotten their source. A few who had taken leave of the land to the south, which was the third part, fled into the area known to you as South America and Central America, and some on into the areas of what would become the continent of the North Americas, which was the new portion, which had been held in trust for them. There they began a new part, which was to prepare that land for a new race and a new people. They were humble peoples who lived in harmony and balance with Mother Father. They brought wisdom with which they had been endowed of the Father and their brother benefactors, and they held the portions which were recorded upon stones and papyrus, and upon their hearts they engraved that which no man should steal or use for the gain of self. For it was given unto them to be the keepers of the secrets, which has been held in trust for this day, and you shall partake of this knowledge, which has been held so sacred by the very few. And it has come forth again that one came forth in purity to lead the peoples. He had been given that part which should deliver them up, which would bring them into the new place, even as some shall be delivered out of the lands which are destined to go into the briny deep of the 2 oceans on either side, so be it. Some shall be asleep, and for that there shall be much weeping. In the early days upon the new places, the teachers and leaders were given much power, as they were custodians of an energy which you of the world of men have not yet discovered. They knew the secrets of the elements and the earth, and law governing them, and they, as you shall hear, knew that the atom is the controlling balance of earth, and yet they did not use it as present scientists are endeavoring to do. They kept this knowledge as the heritage of the new day, which shall be revealed unto them who are worthy to receive of that knowledge. Again the peoples became idolatrous, and they were given unto much carnal, of which is to say, they even became so degraded as to partake of blood and flesh, and gave great and horrible sacrifices of both their brother and God's creatures to atone for their putridness. Again there came forth the dawning of a day when a force which had built upon itself within the earth did give forth, and it was as no man had seen. It turned and twisted their stones as clay models. It set awry their gateways, and their idols were set asunder. Their thrones were turned upside down, their altars were overthrown, and chaos reigned for 2 cycles of the sun. The sun gave forth no light. There was only a glow of night, and the moon was as red as that of blood. And those ones which did not perish fled in terror and panic. And it was from these the remnants who fled, who had heard and heeded that which was said unto them from out of the ether, the cosmos. Dharma, it is that man in each of his lessons forgets that which he learns, and much is forgotten. For that which is hidden in the secret places and in the oral teachings is that the earth did shift, and the entire of the crust was changed, so that naught remained as before. The motherlands which were beneath the seas were lifted up in the cleansing, and that which was above was sank beneath the new seas, and man moves onward and forgets his truth. And through the eons which ensue each cleansing, the teachers come forth, and man listens for a while, and then returns to his sleep, while evil forces reign upon the lands and in the hearts. Each time, and in each portion, comes forth a master teacher or prophet to show the way. Now some will heed the lessons, and most will not. Truth comes, and the ones of evil select that which they feed into the foolish followers. Then the earthman chooses sides and clutches unto himself his idea of that teacher, and despoils the very being who came forth. Now you ones wish to tinker with the idea of the great teachers. Some were Christs, some but teachers of goodness and truth. Each was tormented and slain. You have walked the path and felt the sword and the poison and the fire of man's evil intent. It is not for us to judge these things. Ours is to tell of the truth and show the way home for those who wish to travel with us. For the shift is again at hand, and no place upon this orb shall remain unchanged. None. So be it, for it shall become in this time of this generation. For all the signs you were given through the ages have come into placement within the tapestry. We shall now speak on these things. You, Chela, shall not experience the lessons of the Red Eagle before putting these words to paper, for it is not to be claimed you simply wrote from that which the one little crow espouses unto you. Yours must come from us of the outer dimensions, for his shall be of the earth, and the teachings preserved therein, and the oral lessons carried from generation to generation, which had again been forgotten and exploited in heinous greed and self-aggrandizement by the Red Brothers, as well as the other tribes of man. Now we shall speak of revelations and prophecy, and shall always be at reminding you of the truth. First must come the ashes, then the phoenix. Quetzalcoatl, Thunderbird, can rise. So be it, Chela. I am Sananda. Dharma Hatton returned to give my portion. This too must be prior to the coming forth of Red Eagle speaking. And while he speaks the oral teachings unto your voice recorder, I shall insist we cover the prophecies and revelations, that you can see for yourselves the truth of our beingness. The time is at hand, Chela, for these things. Revelation. For you ones who bear the burden of explaining and projecting the revelations and presenting the prophecies, we honor you. Since the prophecies presented by the accepted Christ unto John in Revelation are your basic point of interest, we shall look at them in depth. Now do not be lulled into drowsiness, however, for the same prophecies have come to all cultures, in all placements, in identical meaning, even if words and the prophecies concerning wars and rumors of wars, as well as those regarding the dominance of the world by the white race in the end times, are reiterated in even more detail by John in the last book of that which you once called the Bible Revelation. Now John was in prison in a place called Patmos, having been incarcerated there for preaching God's words and teachings. The Christos came to him in a vision and revealed to him what would happen in the end times of this man-made system of things. The Christos came to several in different ways to bring the vision that in these end times the truth could be integrated and man would need open his eyes into truth. He would still be given the freedom to deny, but nonetheless he would be given truth from both above and below, the outer and the inner. The knowing will not change of it. The knowing of truth will give unto each his ability to choose his direction and offer truth regarding the divine order of the universe and the creation, and allowing him to again come into balance with Father, Mother, Source. Nothing more and nothing less. No magic shall reverse the course, for you waited and slept too long to allow the reversal of the ultimate translation. And what you do now is determine your direction and alter the impact. Pull yourselves back into truth. The Christos, Emmanuel, dictated 7 letters to John to send to his various churches. The letters contain words of comfort and love, as well as warnings against abandoning the true path. The letters can be understood on at least two levels, from macro to micro. Number one, the 7 stages of the spiritual development of the church body and its history, and or 2, the personal spiritual evolution of seekers of God. Emmanuel tells God seekers to have patience, perseverance, and not to be deceived by false prophets, to be faithful in service and love for the Lord, and not to be tempted by the cravings of the senses, such as lust, greed, and anger, and finally to wake up spiritually so as to not die in spiritual darkness. Now, the last 2 of the letters were aimed at 2 opposite types. The first one is directed to those who have kept His word and been faithful to Him. The Lord promised to keep the door to His kingdom open for them, saying that no one would be able to shut it. He also promised to keep them from experiencing the coming tribulation and or to give them the strength to endure it to the end, so that they may become pillars of this true church, the body of love. The second is aimed at those who have become totally apathetic toward God, being neither for or against His laws and the laws of the creation, and thus they are to be spewed out by God, for they fail to see that they are in reality blind, wretched, pitiable, poor, and naked. He admonishes them to return to doing good works in His name, so that they may be clothed in white linen, representing their good deeds, and to open their eyes to see God, to hear His knocking in their heart's door, and to open that door and let Him enter in. In other words, the Lord is saying that in these times, one must not be apathetic towards Father, Mother, God, and His laws, lest one miss his or her opportunity to enter through the doorway, which is the doorway to union with the Lord. Now, this does not mean to run and dress yourself in white linen, for that it would be a lie. It is an example of inner purity and intent. The lesson is the same this day as in eons past. And I am not going to quote the whole of Revelation, for any man can read of it in whatever language is your own. If you do not believe upon the one Emmanuel, then read that which is written by Buddha or the Old Testament prophets, for the intent and message is the same. Always truth is the same. The error comes in not seeing and knowing the things which happen that fulfill the prophecies. There were the scrolls spoken of in the vision, with many seals to be opened. And the first 4 seals were described as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Basically, they represent the international conflicts that are to and have already started to embroil the earth. And as with the American Indians, the East Indians, and Emmanuel's prophecies, the trigger that starts the fateful ride of these 4 horsemen, who on a macro level represent the bloodshed, the death and destruction, and the economic chaos that wars bring, is the rise to power of the white race and their dominance over the earth as a whole, subjugating native peoples worldwide and exploiting the countries under their control. On a micro level, the 4 horsemen represent the world empires and or political movements that would dominate the globe in the end times. One explanation of these 4 horsemen is put forth upon your place somewhat as follows. Well, it is quite sufficient as far as it goes and can represent a fair background as to clues, etc., for timing of events. Now, it is put forth that the first rider on the white horse might represent the Western European powers that grew out of the old Roman Empire, who went out conquering and to conquer, and then colonized most of the world, Great Britain, France, and Spain being the principal colonizers. The second rider on a red horse might well represent worldwide communism or anti-godness in its true sense, which has indeed taken peace from the earth, bringing anarchy, war, and killing. Red is associated with communism, and the theory is valid in great extent, but too much is placed upon the play on words, etc. For example, the Russian communists are not only responsible for their slaughter of their own people, 30 million under Mr. Stalin alone, but also for the massacres and suppression of Hungary in 1956, Czechoslovakia in 1968, and Poland and Afghanistan in 1980, not to mention the rest of the Eastern European countries that lie behind their Iron Curtain, as well as other countries around the world. The other communist giant, Red China, not only massacred almost 50 million of their own people under Mao, but waged genocide against the Tibetan people and disrupted peace in the region by attacking India in the late 50s, occupying its territory to this day. Thus, this seal would seem to have been opened on their account. Well, what about the millions upon millions of people slain by your overzealous so-called Christians in the Inquisition? Nay, brothers, do not believe you can cast off the blame upon any group. There are as many true Christ-conscious people who proclaim to be communists as there are in the free world. Do not mislead yourselves into the lie. What about the third horseman? Economic chaos? I think we have pointed that subject out pretty well before. You are in the time of chaos, and it will increase to total collapse. And what of the fourth horse and rider, death? Needs very little example, I would surmise. AIDS alone shall take a third to a half of the world population. Dharma, before we speak more on these subjects, let us have respite, for our days shall be long until we have written of these things, and you will require interim rest periods. I am Hatton, to move to standby that I might clear of the frequency. Hatton to out, please. Let's continue on with recording 1 Hatton, Monday, December 18th, 1989, 7 o'clock a.m., Year 3, Day 124. This is Chapter 7. Hatton present to work on our journal. Dharma, you are deserving of an explanation regarding the loss of your hours of work on the yesterday. Do not place such heavy importance on a computer failure to accept the document. I would, however, suggest you write the documents frequently, and the fragments will simply have to be gathered by others. It is too debilitating for us to work for 3 or 4 hours to simply lose the work to the ethers. It would be nice if we had a better relationship with our surveillance officers, for they could give it immediately back to your computer. That might also give you a good clue as to that which happened. The gremlins which infect your equipment are not of the etheric variety, dear chelas. Now, as we move into the translation of the revelation into the portions of our journal, which represents the ashes, from which the phoenix shall rise, a lot of energy shall be put forth to stop the work, so be it. And if they can discourage you well enough, Dharma, to stop you from writing, they will have won. It is as much that they who give surveillance do not wish the daily comments from going forth. They know that the plans are to dissect the major cover-ups of this past year in every field. And when I told you yesterday that Andrei Sakharov was murdered and told you how, they immediately shut down your equipment. Now you will note that all international news will slate he died of an apparent heart attack. He was put into cardiac arrest from a projected beam, which, by the way, was powered by his own scientific discoveries. He was going to cause an uproar on that very day, such as the proletariat had never seen. It will become obvious that he was intentionally killed, and the people will rise up in further protest. Now, he deliberately defied the plan and was thusly removed. Further, are you ones just going to sit and ponder and give accolades to Mr. Bush for going into strife-ridden Colombia to meet with the drug people? What is the president of your country doing going into the most critical spot in the Southern Americas? I expect my crew to recognize truth. Precious ones, the deals are being consummated for the big shift in monetary rules and regulations, etc., etc., etc. Now watch Mr. Bennett and his drug policy defense. Instead of arguing legalization of drugs on merit, he personally attacks all who speak in favor of intelligent management, regardless of what the solution offered. You would spoil the plan if you solved and won your war on drugs. It is all they have to hold forth to allow the total disarming and control of you as a nation. Your bankers and government simply want a larger share of the gravy. And the big boys in government scattered around are going to suggest that the little lords play by the rules or they will be quashed. You see, in Colombia, you have a new bunch of drug kingpins in collusion with the government, and they wish to come into control. No more and no less. It is simply a matter of which ones will continue to play ball with the authorities. Another point, watch Panama. You must know that incidents are going to be set up in order to give your military reason to march in and take over. You can further be sure that Mr. Noriega will be slain, for they do not want him alive to talk, especially in a court of law. I am going to effort at showing you the relationship with these things and the prophecies of a changing planet. Therefore, Dharma, we shall simply have to restructure that which was given on the yesterday. Now, I desire that you ones put the prophecies into proper perspective. It is as with the first horseman of the apocalypse. Most scholars will pronounce that rider to be the Christ. No. It is the Antichrist. Evil rides the white horse. The Christed Master rides the last horse, the fifth. Now that's a bit of interesting news right there. Remember, this was given to John in a vision and is therefore only a story and has been somewhat mistold here and there through 2,000 years. It is fine. It matches the prophecies of Daniel, of the ancients, of the great seers. It is time you stop of your dallying with the tale and get on with the opening your eyes and ears and see the misfortunes abounding about you. And I do not project these as negative points, for all these things must come to pass before the end, and the transition into a higher and more wondrous life made way for you precious brothers of that orb. You are free to choose whatever pleases you. You are further quite welcome to intake all that we give unto you and butcher it, dissect it, denounce it, doom and gloom, into oblivion, etc. But you will be given to know by the energy the words will bear that it is the truth. Earth planet is going to shift. Are you feeling it? And the old will go down and the new will rise. As surely as at this point the sun comes first light from the east, it shall again rise from the perspective of the west. You who are prepared shall be kept in safety and lifted off. Those of you who choose to remain and run the great risk shall perish. So be it. Believe me or not, it makes no difference either to us of this cosmic realm or to this scribe. I only caution you to tend your mouth and that which you say and declare unto your brother, because you shall be likely set upon when the truth comes clear. Now let us return to the subject of the book of Revelation. Then we shall correlate it with the book of Daniel. I prefer to not find it necessary to totally integrate it bit by bit with Michael de Nostradame, that's Nostradamus, for his work is being brought relatively current by himself. Attacks are being made in most disheartening manner upon the author of the material, for she did not understand the importance of anonymity, nor of clearing and protecting herself from the evil energies. The first of her books is valid, and most of the second. All is totally usable, but there may be points of confusion as to the understanding and projection. So let me explain. It is not the untruth which is projected. It is that when you deal with energies of the higher realms, but those who are still of the lesser dimensions, you have a lack of all knowledge. As with Mr. Tesla and Mr. Russell, who come through and in those energy formats. They're functioning in that sector and in that capacity and are therefore somewhat limited by knowledge in different terminology, definition of language, etc. As an example, scalar beams. That is a concoction of recent researchers. To Mr. Tesla and Dr. Russell, it was a prana, energy, etheric, energy beams or waves or pulses. And do not be too hard on the receivers, for it is expected that you, the readers, use ordinary and reasonable perception. You're not going to be handed material for personal reasons or gain. So do not ask and do not expect it. You are in an ending cycle of a planet, and information shall be given forth in proper sequence and to the proper personages. It is not that untruth is projected. It is that when you deal with energies of the higher realms, but those who are still of the lesser dimensions, you have a lack of all knowledge. As with Mr. Tesla and Mr. Russell, who come through in these energy formats, they are functioning in that sector and in that capacity, and are therefore somewhat limited by knowledge in different terminology, definitions of language, etc. As an example, the scalar beams. That is a concoction of recent researchers. To Mr. Tesla and Dr. Russell, it was prana, energy, etheric, energy beams or waves or pulses. Do not be too hard on the receivers, for it is expected that you, the readers, use ordinary and reasonable perception. You are not going to be handed material for personal reasons or gains. So do not ask, do not expect it. You are in an ending cycle of a planet. Information shall be given forth in proper sequence and to the proper personages. I interrupt here to request that you not stop asking, for how else will you know when the time is correct and whether or not you are the intended one? I responded here to a young man that I shall leave both unnamed and without location for privacy and security. He asks about the missing links in the DNA factors and genetic missing links, and whether or not we can explain this and fill in the absent information. The response is yes, in all instances. The time is not appropriate, but when it does come time, you, son, shall participate, for it will be one of the most incredible discoveries of your time, and you are here for this purpose, along with your relations. So be it, and I find joy in sharing this with you. If I were to give this unto you now, it would be stolen from you, misused, and the connection would be lost to the service. Patience is still the unwelcome password. I trust this passage shall be properly delivered. Thank you. The first big white horse, with horsemen of Revelation. I shall attempt to cover the subject with a bit less wordiness than yesterday, lest I lose my scribe. A repeal of 4 hours of work makes a secretary less than overjoyed. Well, let's see. There were letters written to the churches, and then came the visions. There were all sorts of things, but predominantly in the beginning there was a scroll with many seals. We shall look at them. Now understand, a most important point at the start, it was the Lamb who was the only one found worthy to open the scroll and seals. Therefore, it is a clue number one. I like puzzles. It is not likely that the Lamb, Christ being, would be on the first horse, nor would that fit into the story very well. No, the first rider was not the Christ being. The first horse was the old evil one himself, that one you dub Satan. Actually, God labeled him Satan when he tossed Lucifer out on his proverbial ear. He, like Christ in God, Father/Mother, Creator, is pronounced in many ways to suit the culture or language. Don't be further deceived. It is the head evil honcho himself, the king deceiver. The first horse is white, to deceive, and the first rider is but one aspect of evil. For the whole of the four are satanic, but we will get on with that. Now remember that one of the strongest historical indictments of Satan is that he is a deceiver, implicably opposed to the truth of God. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to truth, for there is no truth in him. And ye who wish to be and recognize not good, godness, and evil had best be thinking again. I further refer you to the book Satan's Drummers by the Christed One himself, one of these Phoenix journals. There is evil and you are in it. I shared those with you in 3 to 4 various videos. A worldwide battle rages between forces of God and Satan, between light and darkness, between good and evil. Evil stalks the earth, seeking to dominate and to destroy God's creation, and doing a remarkable, efficient job of it. And at the same time, the Creator works to save that which He has created. Well, old Hatton is not here to give you your bedtime lessons in bad and good. I am come to tell you that it matters not which you choose. You will be placed according to that which you choose. However, when the time has come, the planet will shift on her poles, and for your practical purposes, it will be all over, including the weeping. You who have chosen the path home to the higher realms and have lived or turned into the laws of creation, balance, and harmony with Creator, shall be lifted up into very carefully prepared ships of light, silver spacecraft. Sorry, no fluffy white clouds. And those who choose the path of earth way about you shall move into places also prepared for you. But it surely won't be home to Creator as you think it will be. Further, no one from these realms will twist your arm. It is most simple indeed. You will ask for and accept the ride off that placement, or you will be left standing in the mess, purely and simply up to you. The planet is going to rebalance, rebirth, and be cleansed, and you are into year 3 of the process, well underway. And as I go through these next verses, pay attention and relate to those things which have been pointed out to you in the previous journals, and then relate them to the one in preparation from the Ancient of Ancients, the oral teachings and laws of the ancients, which will be labeled the sacred hill within, and shall come forth in the same resource, along with these Phoenix, Quetzalcoatl, Thunderbird journals. It will be from voice, oral pronouncement, through the chosen messenger of the Ancient of Ancients, and this scribe shall put into the printed page to be brought forth, as are these journals. She does not have to discipline herself to the long hours of direct receiving. These documents shall probably be brought forth by mid-January of 1990. The father-mother has requested the document be to paper within 45 days beginning on yesterday and finished by January 31st. Now, as you ones who read this material might guess, there will be no holiday respite for these dear ones. Be gentle with them and give great honor to them, for they toil long on your behalf. And I'm not going to digress to Genesis, for I come not to quarrel with any of your decipherings. We come now to tell you how it is and always was. It is not mystical nor magic. It is fact, physical, and physics. Earth is Satan's playground. He was given this planet and renounced from the heavenly dimensions of higher frequency. His workers are all around you. There are no hostile space brothers waiting to gobble you up. That is the biggest lie and deceit of all, to render you fearful, panic-filled, and blinded. Look upward. See the strobing-colored lights encircling your stars and planets in the heavens, in your night sky? Oh, yes. We are out here in full glory to outdo your Christmas trees. Ah, yes, the evil deceiver and you wondrous people of the lie have swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. Fish caught and headed for the frying pan. Now let's talk of this first rider who deceives, first from outside, the projected church. For many will come in his name, claiming, I am the Christ, and these ones will deceive many. By the way, for you ones who think these messages represent the false prophets and fall into this category, nay, no claim of being Christ or even a prophet of any sort, just putting the fact to paper, and hopefully total anonymity and absence of all public attention. The attention gleaners, beware of them. It does not mean their works are not of truth, but you must always discern what is gained by so-called speakers and projectors. There are no groupies or disciples here, my friends, just hard workers with each pulling an equally important load. And any charges for the journals is simply so that further journals can be brought forth and dispersed, for all of these ones have not. Further, there are great works to be funded. The most crucial is the work to put into the physical apparatus to stop AIDS. It requires laboratory facilities and persons who have knowledge, and it will not be supported by your government, for therein lies the source of the plague in the first place. Oh yes, there is so much to be done and so few in the beginning to do it. Know, however, that as truth marches across this world, the army shall grow, and none shall be able to stop you. You will move out of this evil age of darkness, for that is the promise. If you can believe the evil worst, can you not also believe the promise of radiance? The major way as the first evil writer deceives is through the lie and the creation of false religions, which, forgive the abruptness, all of your cults are. I use the word cult in its definition of group, doctrine, church. The deceiver wishes you to believe that cult and occult means something which they do not, i.e., you label the Church of Satan a cult for occult practices. Well, every church body is a cult, a group, looking into the occult, that which is beyond physical proof. Simply, is it not? The local Pentecostal or Catholic club is a church cult practicing the occult. You ones better look into your own definitions. And many hundreds of false churches have come forth. However, almost all that were already established are filled with heinous falseness. But then, that is deceit within the church. Deception is rising like the sea dragon with the accepted churches, which are now touched so much by the evil master of lies that you even reach downward and vote in your doctrines, having even deviated from your own mistranslated versions of your own semi-truths. Your own Christian sects are so fragmented that your councils of religious laws are ridiculed, and your own children turn away from the contradictions and hypocrisy of the example set forth for their teaching and rearing. Now, Satan's greatest disguise has always been to appear before men as an angel of light. Now, if you were Satan and you wanted the best and darkest followers, where would you go? To the churches, of course. You would go where there is control over the masses, i.e., you would require the pastor or priest to disallow even viewing of such material as these documents. You would pronounce the truth according to you and joyfully require the people to pay your salary for the information they choose for you to have. Build temples. Every church has a building fund, which a pastor gets to call his, and thus and so. Keep the people blind and the hood pulled tightly to the shoulders. Now, if you want to remain popular, then sanction murder and call it women's rights. To kill is to murder at whatever age be the seed of life. I do not judge. I simply marvel at the lack of responsibility in the heinous misuse of sexual pleasure and lust that must result in murder of the innocent. I judge not homosexual preference. I condemn the sodomy acts of homosexuality, for among other things, it is killing a civilization of humans through AIDS. It is the behavior, not the inclination, which is incorrect and against the laws of creation and God. It is from within the churches that you have rewritten the meaning of the laws of the commandments. Do not blame your brother. You have allowed of it. How about your own revered Paul? For the time will come when men will not put up with the sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather round them a great number of teachers to say that their itching ears want to hear. They will turn their eyes away from the truth and turn aside to myths. Let me check here. 1 Timothy 4, 1 through 2. Yes, the white horse has escaped the barn, while you left the door open, and the rider has spread his cloak about the lands. Satan is transforming himself into a false angel of light, and Satan's representatives are also being transformed as ministers of righteousness, mostly totally in ignorance of that which is happening. So subtle is the transition. So while propagating that which brings death and darkness to the mind and heart of the sinner, they profess to be representatives of the God who is light. They claim to be propagating doctrines that come from the God of light, the living God. This is a part of satanic deception, the satanic system that imitates the program of God. Well, you just want it all. Wealth, power, sexual prowess, charisma, all that is worldly. So be it. The first writer has fooled you again. You thought it would be perfect if you had all these things, and you end up with nothing that brings you pleasure or peace. Do you not see Satan had to be the one on the first horse to set the path for the rest of his plan? He has hooked and hoodwinked a world of human beings and has now locked you into the next episodes, all of which are flourishing, all about you. All of the horses are loosed and all the seals are broken, including the last. So be it, for the day is at hand. Now let us take respite now. Let us be cautious to keep the writings to a reasonable length so that we will not lose greatly if our systems are interrupted. And I salute you for your persistence, for you ones must surely have beyond your share of assault. Take rest now, and we shall continue a bit later. We do have much to cover prior to your coming into working with the ancient teachings, for we want you not touched by that truth before the writing of this document. Salut. Hat on moving to standby. Salut and cleared.